Hello, CleoCon. How are we feeling? Excellent. I get to sit. This is a really good part of the conference for me.
Still coming in.
All right, as we get started here, I want to do a quick thank you to our visionary partners. If you haven't had a chance to speak with them yet, please pop on into the exhibit hall and get to talking with them because they're really great products and you're really going to find them helpful. As mentioned by the voice of God there, I'm Erin Walker. I'm the Director of Marketing Strategy and Enablement here at Clio. This is my 7th CleoCon. However, it is my first in person. So, like you, I'm a slight bit overwhelmed. But we're really excited here to get into our panel, and I want to bring these wonderful folk up on stage for you. So, what we're going to do today, quick introductions, our panel discussion, and then we will be having a Q&A session. I want to say a special hello to our virtual audience joining us. We have over 2,000 folks joining us on the platform today. You are also welcome to participate in the Q&A, and I'd love to invite you right now to put in the chat where you're coming to us from and one word that symbolizes what you're feeling about AI. For the folks in the room, let's bring everybody up. So first, we're going to welcome to the stage Alia Luria. Alia is a corporate technology lawyer, CTO at Infront Compliance, and a managing partner at L&K Law. Her deep knowledge of the publishing, legal, and technology industries has allowed her to serve clients of all sizes on transactional matters for the last 12 years of practice. And she is also a published novelist and has her latest book out for pre-order now, Ocularium. Is that right, Alia? Did I get it right?
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right, next we're welcoming up on stage. Nope, don't do that. Fantastic. Mitch Jackson, can you please join us here? Mitch is an award-winning lawyer with over 70 trials and 3 decades of litigation and mediation experience under his belt. And whether it's AI, Web3, or the metaverse, Mitch is a sought-after speaker and consultant, and he is also an author of the highly relevant The Web3, Metaverse, and AI Handbook. Welcome, Mitch.
How you doing? Thank you.
And last but not least, Ed Walters. Ed is the Chief Strategy Officer at VLEX, adjunct professor at Georgetown Law and Cornell Law School, and the founder of Fastcase, which merged with VLEX in April. Ed is also an author. He is the author of The Data-Driven Law. Now, I don't know if the organizers did this on purpose, but they did put together a panel of 3 accomplished published authors and 1 recovering editor in the publishing industry. So, thank you, everyone. I'm so excited to have you here for our panels today. Excuse me. All right, I want to get us started, so I want to hear from each of you. What is the elevator pitch? Make the argument. Why should the legal professionals in this room, who are all intelligent humans, get into AI and get it into their practices? Do you want to start us off?
Well, if you don't, someone else will. As attorneys, we have an opportunity to stay ahead of the game, particularly as small firms and innovative lawyers, and so that's the elevator pitch. Stay ahead of the game.
I love it. Succinct.
You know, for those of you that were at Jack Newton's keynote this morning, he said it all, right? This is not something that you want to think about doing. It's not something that you're still on the fence about. The train's already left the station. And if you want to be a better, faster, more efficient lawyer, you want to wrap your hands and arms around artificial intelligence, leverage the technologies that you're learning about at the conference and what we talk about today. And I think a year from now, you're going to look back and it's going to change your practice. It's going to change your life.
All right, how about you, Ed?
This is just like the World Wide Web, just like iPhones. If you're not using it, all of your clients, all of your opposing counsels, all of the courts you work with, all of the parties in a transaction will think you are a moron.
I have yet to meet any morons in the audience today, so I think we're safe from that front. Now, Mitch, you're specifically known for bringing this into your practice in an incredibly bleeding edge way. Can you provide some specific examples of how you're using ChatGPT or any other AI technology currently?
What we're doing right now is when I'm a private mediator in addition to trying cases. And so when I'm mediating a virtual mediation, during breakout sessions, the parties are in each of their breakout rooms on Zoom, I'll step over to a GPT-4, ChatGPT-4 database that we've set up ahead of time where we've uploaded each party's mediation briefs. We've uploaded different arguments that I've heard during the preparation for the mediation, different case law and statutes. We're redacting personal information, and I'll copy and paste a prompt. In fact, I have it written down in case anybody wants to know what it is. And I asked GPT-4, we're at an impasse on issue number 3. Give me 10 open-ended questions to encourage the parties to continue having a conversation and diving a little bit deeper. And I've been practicing for 37 years. I'm pretty good at coming up with these questions on my own, but I can admit to everybody here, if it gives me 10 questions, 8 I thought about, 2 I hadn't, and those 2 are usually better than the 8 that I thought about. So we're leveraging it in real time to hopefully facilitate better settlements.
Fantastic. And from the rest of my panel, any other specific examples that you're using today? Maybe Alia?
Actually, it's interesting. So I did receive, and I didn't initiate this, but I've had potential clients as a transactional lawyer come up to me and say, I'm thinking of engaging you as my counsel. Here's the purchase agreement I've received, and I've already loaded it into ChatGPT, and they've given me a series of bullet points on the deal on both sides, like as counsel representing the buyer, as counsel representing the seller. Here's all the things you need to think about. And like when I take a look at that document, I'm usually really impressed with just, yeah, a lot of it I would have come up with myself in analyzing it, but there is always like a basis there that it kind of gives you that pre-built mental checklist of, hey, I could actually use this in some capacity as a starting point for when I'm doing negotiation. It's not the end all, but it's the starting point. So.
Fantastic. And Ed, what's it look like in your day-to-day, ChatGPT?
Well, I use a lot of these tools, and I won't get into the super nerdy parts of it. We're building products with it and stuff like that, but I want to maybe do a dark side example. So I have a list of books that are published by Fastcase, and I was trying to put it in alphabetical order. And in the past, I would have gone into a Word, and I would have created a little table, and I would have copied and pasted and cut and pasted and put it in alphabetical order myself. And recently I used GPT-4 and basically organized the table myself. And it was amazing. It happened right away, with one exception. So it listed all the books in a table in alphabetical order in a couple of seconds. And it went, all the A authors, all the B authors, all the C authors, all the way down the alphabet. And then the last item in the list was an author whose last name began with an M. And so it's iterative, and I basically wrote back and said, thanks, that's cool. Why is the last item in this list an author whose name begins with an M? And the response was, because M is the last letter in the alphabet. Are you sure about that? Please excuse me, my mistake. Z is the last letter of the alphabet. Great. Do you want to try that list again? And so it didn't take 5 seconds. It took about a minute and a half for this running dialogue, but certainly faster than I could have done it.
Yeah, absolutely. I know there's probably a lot of folks in this room who have had to alphabetize a list of things. I know I am among the people who have had to do that, and that is absolutely a use case I use it for as well. But you touched on something important there, Ed, which is we're not getting 100% accurate answers all of the time. Do you want to maybe expand on that and what that looks like in terms of hallucinations?
Yeah, so I would just say at the outset, it is not a surprise that we're not getting accurate or factual answers, because generative pre-trained transformers, GPT tools, are not truth engines. They're not designed to find answers to questions, which is why we're often disappointed when we ask a factual question and get back something that is either like weak sauce or just wrong. Sometimes right. But what these tools are designed to do is kind of like autocomplete. They're supposed to figure out statistically what the most likely next word in the sequence is. And word after word, it will create paragraphs and entire essays. But it's important to note, it is not asking what the right answer is. It is asking what the statistically most likely answer is. Right? So what you end up with is kind of like an average answer that is designed to look plausibly very statistically correct. But it's not supposed to be correct. It's not trying to be correct. And this is where hallucinations come in. Sometimes if you ask a factual question, you will get back a factual-looking answer from GPT tools that are statistically likely but false. And these are called hallucinations. The word hallucination is actually driven from the machine learning industry for self-driving cars, where a car might take something from its sensor and interpret it in a way that it thinks that there is a stop sign or a child running after a ball, and the car driving down the street would hallucinate and just stop out of nowhere. And so these GPT tools are said to hallucinate. I'm not crazy about the term, but the idea is that it will produce a factual answer that is incorrect. Last point I just want to say about this, so this is unique. Like in the history of software, when we ask software a question it doesn't know the answer to, it says, I don't know the answer. If you run a search in Fastcase for something and there's no results, it says no results. But these GPT tools, for the very first time, I think, when you ask a question that it doesn't know the answer, it will mansplain the hell out of an answer to you. That's new.
You know, along those lines, what's interesting, as I was sharing with Ed during lunch, is we were on a case management conference in California via Zoom, and I heard opposing counsel in real time on the Zoom cite incorrect law to the judge, right? Misrepresent exactly what was happening in the case. And so I think when we look at the accuracy of an AI response, take it with a grain of salt. Use the power of prompts and reprompting. I think that's the power of AI, pretty much any system you're using. Along with real-time examples, I'd be remiss if I didn't share. This is something that works really well for me, and it's not predicated upon a factual response. If I'm picking a jury in a conservative venue and I'm asking the jury to award large money damages, what we'll normally do is we'll put into a personalized data set that we create in GPT-4, and I can tell you guys how to do this if you want, tell everyone. What we'll do is we'll ask questions. We'll say, you are a human factors expert. You're a trained psychologist and sociologist. You're an expert trial lawyer. You're picking a jury in a conservative venue. These are the 10 primary issues that need to be adjudicated. Give me 50 open-ended questions to ask my jury during jury selection so that I can make sure I've got the right butts sitting in the right seats. And like I said, I've tried a lot of cases. I'm pretty good at picking a jury, but inevitably, I'm getting feedback on issues I didn't even think about. You can then prompt again and dive deep on those issues. It works, and it works well. And what I just shared with you takes about 2 to 3 minutes instead of 2 to 3 days. So it's a powerful tool if you use it the right way.
Absolutely. So obviously, when we're talking about hallucinations and potentially incorrect information, we're going to have some ethical concerns. So Ali, could you speak to us a little bit about what we should be paying attention to there?
Absolutely. So as we move through this AI, and as you can see from an ethics perspective, it's not just about, am I getting factual information out of this, but am I getting information that is serving my client? Am I doing, if you're using it for client representations, are you providing good service to your clients by utilizing AI, or are you actually like hurting them in the sense where if you are, like for instance, there was the case where the attorney submitted a brief to the court that had been generated through AI, and it not only included factually incorrect cases, it included cases that didn't exist. It made up entire citations for cases that did not exist. It got submitted to the court. It was not checked. And now, as attorneys, we all know that shepherdizing is something you do even if you've read the case. But in this case, obviously, the attorney overlooked that crucial step. And so when we talk about ethics, it's a multi-layered situation because you have ethics as related to your legal ethics and your commitment as a member of the bar. You have ethics related to your personal ethics and how you want to serve your clients and how you want to act. And then we also have this other layer of regulatory requirements that is like, while not currently as much of a factor, is going to become a factor very quickly. I mean, the European Union, predictably, is already a step ahead of us in the United States, and they're looking to include an AI Act going forward that they've already started to promulgate the language for, and that will actually have a specific requirement that anything related to legal interpretation has to be disclosed that AI is used, as well as given additional considerations when you're actually utilizing AI for that. So that, I think, ethics-wise, we have to be very careful because we want to use AI, but we also want to use it responsibly so that we're actually making our clients' lives better and our own lives better, and not creating not relying on things that are hallucinating or relying on things that are biased. Because again, we are training these models based on existing data, and the quality of the data that goes in directly informs the quality of the output that you receive. And so when you're looking at the output, you have to think not only does it not know that Z is the last letter in the alphabet, but does it know that women can be lawyers? Because there was one instance where an AI answered a question that a basic grammar question on the assumption that women could not be lawyers, and so this could not be the grammatical answer, and that doesn't make any sense to any of us, and it certainly doesn't serve female lawyers to be considered not lawyers. And so those kinds of questions from ethics are not just related to legal ethics, but like bias, the idea that poor data sets are going to result in poor responses and are going to give us maybe not completely ineffective results, but certainly not optimal. And so that's a little bit, I think, hopefully that's helpful in understanding what should you be thinking about as you implement these systems.
Absolutely. And Ed, I know you have a take on what the existing ABA model rules are telling us directionally for this kind of thing.
Yeah, I think the headline for it is that the same responsibilities that existed before AI exist after AI. I won't go into them all in detail, but let me just put 3 buckets here. One, duty of competence and diligence, Rule 1.1, Comment 8, the duty of tech diligence, tech competence, and then Rule 1.3, duty of diligence. If you can do something more effectively using tools like AI and do them more effectively for clients, in many cases you'll be responsible to do that. I think people sometimes see the model rules as an anchor to hold you in place when things are changing very quickly, but I would encourage you also to see them as a sail, propelling you forward in times of great change. In a storm, sometimes an anchor could be an extremely dangerous thing for you. And so in a time that's of great change like right now, sometimes you can be required to use new technologies. Second bucket, confidentiality. Rule 1.6, you are required to keep your clients' sensitive information, confidential information, confidential. And that will require you to understand when you're using AI tools, when your prompts are being used to train the model, because that could be a breach of your duty of confidentiality. There's a famous case recently where Samsung engineers were typing trade secrets into ChatGPT, and that was being used to train the OpenAI model. Only a couple of days ago, Google's Bard was indexing the prompts and their responses and then serving them up as search results. So the duty of confidentiality. And then finally, the duty of supervision. Rule 5.1, Rule 5.3, maybe especially 5.3, a lawyer in a case has a duty to take responsibility for all of the allied professionals who work on a case. Paralegals, legal assistants, contract lawyers, outsourced lawyers, and in this case, I think artificial intelligence. We haven't had the case yet, but let me tell you, don't be the case.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And then, that's one thing to think about this hypothetically, but Mitch, what does it look like in your firm when you're assessing a new technology or a new way of using it? How do you make that decision?
Well, to follow up on what each of you said, you want to make sure that your team also understands everything that we're talking about. I think that's the weak link. I may understand exactly what I can and can't do, but that doesn't mean my team does, whether it's in the office or virtual. So definitely double down on training your teams with respect to all of the issues that we talked about. Second, I think it's really important to be transparent. We actually, when Clio first moved into the cloud, we embraced it immediately because I was already all in on the cloud movement, but clients were worried about security. Clients were worried about data being, breached. We all know that's not the case. We use that opportunity early to market our firm and let our clients know we're the first California law firm, or one of the first, to embrace the cloud, and our clients can access documents and their case status and their calendars through the cloud. They don't have to contact us, right? It was an opportunity to market and brand. I think the same thing exists in today's world with AI. By being transparent, we use AI to be more efficient. We use AI to get you faster results. We use AI to save you time so that you can put your head on the pillow at night and get some sleep and let us do all the work, which, by the way, we do it faster, better, and more efficiently. There's so much to take into consideration when we talk about these things, but like Ed mentioned, what applies offline when it comes to ethics, when it comes to client interactions and client responsibilities, it applies online to AI. Following up at the end of my response is there's going to be a point in time, and I'm going to say in the next 12 to 24 months, where there's going to be somebody on the stand, probably a lawyer, being asked the question, before you gave that advice, before you ran those numbers, before you took that next step, did you check AI? Did you run it through the XYZ data set? And if the answer is no, that lawyer may be found by a jury to have violated the standard of care. So I think we're seeing, in my opinion, a new standard of care that's coming along in real time that we're all trying to figure out together. And for me, we're basing our conduct, our decisions on traditional California and ABA ethics, rules, regulations, and canons. Having said that, we're playing in this new AI sandbox because it works, and this is going to change the world more so, I feel, than the printing press, electricity, and the internet combined. This is happening in real time. So it's just a fun time to play. It's an interesting time to make mistakes. And when we make mistakes, let's not cover them up. Let's talk to our clients about it and work together to avoid having the mistake happen a second time.
Absolutely. And so when we're talking about avoiding mistakes, we also want to be talking about data security, about confidentiality. So what measures should law firms and legal practitioners take to safeguard sensitive client information when they're using AI tools? Allie, do you want to start?
Sure. So obviously, one of the things that, like, you already have, as Ed said, confidentiality obligations under the bar. And you probably already have very good data security measures in place. You use Clio, you use multi-factor authentication, and all of those tools to make your system secure. So what you don't want to do is take a secure system and then let it be exploited by using AI in a way that's not responsible. And so what that might look like is, if you're going to be providing data into a system such as GPT that will take that data, suck it in, and use it for other things, you want to make sure that you're redacting any personally identifiable information, that you're taking out any client confidential information or firm confidential information that you don't want to share with the general internet, e.g. the Samsung team. You also want to make sure that if you have that opportunity to sign up for a system that is closed through like a third party, where you know that it's going to rest on like your Azure instance or within your Clio or within your system, and that the data that's going to be used to train your specific system remains with you, and that you have the continued and exclusive rights to use that data. That is another thing to consider. So the licensing, just the redaction, as well as you want to be very careful about copyright. Even if it's not confidential, you still have a copyright to the information that you're creating, and by allowing it to be used by a system, you do run the risk of your copyright material then showing up in other people's results and being used to generate. And there's a lot of, I think, cases that are coming out now. Big name creatives are starting to sue, J.K. Rowling and some of the others, to really understand how their copyrights are being violated, again, statistically, because you say it's a statistical generation. If you ask them, write me a book about a boy who's 12, 11 and goes to wizard school, where are they going to get that information from, right? From a statistical probability standpoint, it's going to be from Harry Potter, an existing author. And so that kind of information can be problematic. And so as you use the system, part of it is, as Mitch says, using it to generate questions or using it to help you without necessarily using it to actually generate material that might violate copyrights, or that you might end up regretting putting it together into a system that's used for your client. So you're always going to be safer asking it a question or asking it to generate questions for you, asking it to generate feedback on certain things, and you're going to get riskier as you ask it to generate specific information that might, again, violate someone's copyright or might require confidential information that you shouldn't be giving out or that you shouldn't be utilizing with the system. So.
And a couple of follow-ups, just from a practical standpoint, we're using these systems to do medical records review. We're using these systems to evaluate opposing counsel's trial briefs. Anytime we're inputting data, we're redacting anything private just to be safe. But everyone here needs to know, for example, if I'm using Ed's company, it's my understanding that the data that I put in, it's protected. It's not going out to the general public, okay? So read the TOS, the terms of service agreements of the platforms that you're using, so you understand what all the parameters are. An example is by putting these medical records or mediation briefs or whatever it may be, court pleadings into the system, be smart about the data that you put in. But here's the fun part. What used to take hours and days, whether it's me or someone else on our team, literally within 60 seconds with the right prompt, give me an outline of the 10 major issues regarding X, Y, Z, bullet point them, with titles and subtitles, run a contrary prompt, let me know what works, what doesn't. It's unbelievable what you can do with the data that we're using every single day to really do a better job for our clients when it's all said and done. And so, like you mentioned, if we're careful about the data that we put in, we can minimize our exposure, rightfully so, to sharing private information on these data sets.
Double check the output. Once you get
Absolutely.
it,
Double check the
triple
output.
check it.
So everyone here probably remembers the Andy Warhol Supreme Court case, right? That came down. Before the court came down with that case, we ran all the briefs into a GPT-4 prompt. There's a way to do it. You can feed it data. Back then, GPT-4 has plugins. And you can activate the plugins to read PDF documents. You can activate the plugins to read websites. Back in the day, we had to manually feed this data into the system, which is what we did. It was about 90 pages. Anyway, we asked it, indicating all of
Back in the day in May.
Back in the day.
That's it, just to clarify.
That's the point, right? We're on an exciting ride. And we threw into the prompts the personalities of each of the sitting U.S. Supreme Court justices, counsel for both sides, and then the main 10 issues. The response that it gave us, and we posted it publicly on LinkedIn, was almost spot on to what the U.S. Supreme Court ruled. We then used it to follow up on what would the court do, just for fun, with the Jack Daniels case, which was the follow-up case. It was spot on. My friends that are IP lawyers are like, wow, that was pretty cool. Now, it may have been completely wrong, and in this, and that's not what I do, but it was just interesting to see something way back in the day, last May, actually work that well, literally within minutes of pumping out the responses. So, it's exciting times, right?
May the court never find your prompts showing their psychological profiles.
Yeah, no kidding, no kidding.
Absolutely. So we are, talking a lot about ChatGPT today, but Ed, I want to hear from you. When should lawyers make the decision about using legal-specific tools versus a more general tool?
I think it's a great question. So I love ChatGPT. I feel like it was the World Wide Web of AI. Like the World Wide Web, the internet existed for 15, 20 years before the first browser hit. And then suddenly when there were browsers, we could all see the internet, and it became very relevant to us. And similarly, like AI existed for, 5 decades or something before ChatGPT, but it was the first time that we could all see it, that we could all use it. And it was also like a very good version of AI as well. That was the browser moment for AI. With that said, I'm really big on the right tool for the right job. And the reason Steve Schwartz got in so much trouble in New York, and other lawyers in California and Texas, by the way, is wrong tool for that job. They were trying to do substantive legal work in a chatbot. I could ask a magic 8-ball whether a spot on my arm is skin cancer, and it will answer me definitively, but it is not diagnosing me for skin cancer, right? If I say, is this something that I should get an operation on, and the magic 8-ball says definitively yes, that doesn't mean that it is diagnosing cancer in my body. And similarly, when we ask substantive legal questions to ChatGPT or any GPT engine, it's not a truth inquiry, as I said before, wrong tool for the job. And so there are very good tools for substantive legal work. There are very good tools, I think we see now with Clio Duo that Jack announced this morning, tools that will really help with maybe the practice of law side, querying the calendar and the tasks that are due and bills that are open that are particularized. You would never ask like GPT-4 or Claude from Anthropic about information in Clio. It just won't know the answer. So similarly, there are specialized tools for legal research. Co-counsel from Casetext is a very good one. There is one coming out in beta like this week from VLEX and Fastcase called Research Assistant, trained on 1 billion legal documents from around the world. I think the biggest by a factor of 20 training data set for law. Closed, so it never leaks confidential information, and trained only on data it can cite from the law, so it can't hallucinate. I don't mean this as an advertisement. I mean this is the kind of process we went through when designing a specialized tool for legal professionals. Right tool for the job. So I love GPT for things like summaries, for rough and ready translation. It's really pretty good for some of those tasks. So that's not to say that lawyers can never use the kind of popular versions of ChatGPT or GPT-4. It just means that you have to be careful about what tasks you ask it to do. And I would just say, like, when you are using any AI tool, always read the cases, as Steve Swartz will tell you, and then just double check, right? Just make sure that what you're getting out is verifiably right. Even if it's a summary of a big document, you might want to go through and check to make sure that those points are actually right before submitting it as legal work. So I'm very enthusiastic about ChatGPT, about Bard from Google. The new Gemini tool from Google I have heard is like going to be mind-blowingly great, like beyond GPT-4. But you should never, I think, use those GPT tools, the autocomplete tools, for substantive legal work. Just the wrong tool for the job, and you are begging to be lied to. So for the specialized practice of law materials, I would say use a tool like Clio's Duo, which we'll see, I think, pretty soon. For practice of law, use a tool like VLEX Fastcase Research Assistant or Co-Counsel from Casetext, now Thomson Reuters. And then for summary tasks, for organizing, for outlining maybe, for dealing with large volumes of medical records for summaries. I think those GPT tools are quite effective. I was on a call the other day with a dozen people, none of whom spoke English. This is part of my new life in VLEX. And so everyone on the call was speaking Spanish, but Google Meet now has a concurrent translation feature that did complete transcripts in real time in English. It was amazing. It was the first time I've ever been able to do that. And that is just a public GPT tool, translating in real time. So in summary, I would just say, like, right tool for the right job. It is your job under the model rules to be critical about that, to understand what tools are good for what. And that's going to require you to use the tools yourselves, understand them, and know the rules of the road.
Earlier today, I had the pleasure of checking out VLEX, and just for fun. And what's important is you don't have to type in complicated legal questions. What we did is we typed in, if someone's animal is intentionally harmed in the state of California, is the owner of that pet entitled to damages for emotional distress? Is there an available cause of action? It immediately pulled up the case that I tried to make new law in California that allows that to happen. Within seconds, it popped right up. And then afterwards, it popped up a follow-up case from 2020 that I wasn't aware of that referred to my case and expanded some of the theories, okay? So it's easy to use on your phone or on your laptop or desktop using plain English to do what used to take me a week at the law library when I was a law clerk back in the 80s. And half the time I was wrong, but I didn't tell the supervising lawyer. And so it's just one of these things where it's getting easier and easier. And while we're talking about AI and the ease of use, you said something that reminded me. Right now, GPT-4 is coming out. It's rolling out right now. I don't have it on my phone, but 2 new features. You can speak to it using your microphone and ask it any questions and follow-up questions. That's great. You can figure that out, but here's the powerful one. You're going to be able to take a picture or upload a picture and ask it to analyze what's in the picture. So if you're sitting in court and opposing counsel has a whiteboard that he, she, or they have, laid out the argument, or an expert's laid out a financial analysis, you can actually take a picture of it, okay? You can have a prompt all ready to go that you copy and paste. You're an expert economist. These are the XYZ issues. You're going to be analyzing what's depicted in this image. Give me 10 reasons, 10 things I need to focus on cross-examination. And all of this happens within minutes, okay? With respect to a defective product, this came up. There's a defective product, and I saw a live demo where the image was taken, fed into GPT-4. The prompt was set up where you were an expert product liability expert on this particular widget, and literally within 45 seconds, it dived deep into the problems that caused the failure of that mechanical item. What a lawyer would then do is obviously dive deeper on each of these prompts and then do your independent due diligence to make sure. But it's just amazing technology that wasn't here last year, at least easily accessible, right? And so it's just a fun time to be alive.
It really is. Now we're thinking about clients. When do you disclose that you're using AI tools, and when are you like, it's okay, don't worry about it?
Always. I mean, I think transparency.
Do you?
I think transparency is smart,
Yes,
right?
I agree.
And let the clients know we're leveraging this new technology to provide a better client experience, to help you faster, to keep your costs down, to allow us. I want to get my work done so I can go for a paddle in the afternoon around Dana Point Harbor, right? It's like you can have fun with it. If you're like us, Lisa and I spent years perfecting our client templates. Emails, letters. I really thought we had really good templates, Lisa, until we fed them into GPT-4 and realized that there's another way of saying some of the things that we were saying as lawyers that clients could understand easier. And so it's helped us internally do all the above. But I think transparency is always a good thing, don't you?
It's always it's another opportunity to tell clients how you're protecting their interests and their data too, because as part of that transparency, you want to make sure you're communicating what of their data might be utilized, how you're protecting it. And so it's, kind of the practice what you preach model, particularly as lawyers, when we advise clients on how to use AI, we want to model those practices for our clients as well. Again, transparency, 100% agree, as well as the data protection, copyright, licensing, all of those issues. We want to make sure we're handling them in-house in a way that will make our clients glad that we're using this technology for them, not afraid of it. So.
Erin, can I add one useful tangent, I think? This is like 5 degrees off of your question, but I would just say candor to the tribunal while we're talking about model rules. So there's a trend now among several US courts, and I think a couple of Canadian courts too, that require disclosure when counsel uses AI in preparation of a pleading. So I'll just caution first, when you use these tools in preparation of a pleading, no matter what you use, you've got to check the rules. Because if you are required to disclose and you don't, you are buying yourself a needless headache. I would even go so far as to say if you're using AI, maybe if there's not a rule, there might be a standard way going forward to disclose that. I think my friends who are practice management advisors in the room might ask the follow-up question, how are you supposed to disclose to a court when you're using AI? Is spell check using AI? Yes. Is Grammarly AI? Of course it is. If you use AI in a research tool to find the most relevant cases, is that the use of AI? Yeah, darn tootin'. If you're using Clio Duo to manage the matter, is that using AI? Maybe. And so I would just say that there is going to be, I think, a trend among jurists, among courts, who are going to require disclosure and transparency by court rule. But those courts might not exactly know what they're getting into. We might have to be disclosing a lot of different AI, or we have to have a clarifying rule saying what counts and what doesn't count.
Fantastic. So things are moving quickly, really quickly in this space. I want to hear your predictions. What is this going to look like, the intersection of AI and legal in 10 years?
Oof. I don't think we could even give you an answer to that of what it would look like in 10 years, because I do think, I mean, if we just go by the last 6, 8, 12 months of progress, how do we really, I think if Mitch gets his way, we'll all be living in
Me or you?
You, if you get your way.
We're going to meet each other in the metaverse.
We'll all just be living in our little bubbles and everything will be AI. But I do think that realistically, it is going to be something where we are all going to have to adapt to the practice of AI in our daily lives. And as Ed said, we have already been using it. It's not as if AI hasn't already existed in our lives for a very long time. I think it's this idea of generative AI, of AI taking that next step of being able to create, whereas before it just did limited predictions or limited changes. And so it's going to kind of require a full-scale mindset shift for us as lawyers, as people, and to understand kind of that shift of what is reality, what is AI, how do we merge the two, and how do we allow ourselves to utilize this amazing tool that will certainly skyrocket our productivity and allow us to get to great results for our clients and in our daily lives in a way that we haven't even thought of yet. And that's the crux, right? We haven't even thought of how we're going to use it in 10 years. So.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it's going to change everything,
Yes.
right? It's going to change everything as we know it. Deep fakes, for example, as a trial lawyer, authenticity and foundation issues. I had the pleasure of writing something for the continuing education of the bar evidence book. And we need to pay attention to what we think is real, how we're going to lay the authenticity and foundation issues during arbitration, mediation, or trials. We need to pay attention to the blockchain technology, because what's going to happen is everything we're talking about is going to be on the blockchain. If you're not up to speed on the blockchain, many different types of blockchain. Bitcoin blockchain, don't worry about Bitcoin currency. Think of it as a digital ledger. It's changed in 2023, just earlier this year with inscriptions and ordinals. And what it allows you to do is put a pleading or a lease or a deed or an ownership document on the Bitcoin blockchain, and it's permanent. It's there forever, ever. Whether you're using other blockchains, the concept still applies. What's going to happen with IP, for example, is once that IP is secured, it's on a blockchain. AI will be able to ascertain, using the technology we're talking about, whether or not there's a violation instantly. AI is going to be able to advise your clients through you whether or not it's something they should proceed with, whether or not the idea's already been taken, it's already been intellectually protected, for example. We also see AI using the things we're talking about today, facilitating the resolution of cases almost instantly. In other words, imagine tapping into all the data sets available, and you sit down with your client and say, do you want to litigate this case for 2.5 years and spend X amount of dollars, or would you like to go ahead and have me press a button, and have AI give us a resolution that would happen if this thing was tried 999 times in a row? And so it's going to change everything that we're doing, which comes back to a better client and consumer experience. And I think the lawyers that wrap their minds around this type of approach are the ones that are positioning themselves for success. The lawyers that aren't embracing this type of approach are really setting themselves up for some challenging times.
Absolutely. Ed?
Can I do the future I fear and then the future I hope?
I would love to hear that.
Yeah.
All right, so the dystopian wasteland first. My biggest fear in this is that AI becomes a catalyst for radical inequality. So the companies that make the most money off of this are some of the biggest companies in the world: OpenAI, Microsoft, Google, a handful of others, maybe Amazon. The companies with the biggest data sets will make the most money. And by the way, at least so far with GPT technologies, the way that companies are charging for this is effectively by the character, by the word. And so the more you search, the more it costs, which means that the highest quality outputs are the most expensive. As a consumer of these tools, like we're using this inside of VLEX and Fastcase right now, we pay through the nose. Like to get like even full access to OpenAI, the first ask from, I won't say who, but one of these vendors was, if you want full access to the AI tools, you need to pay us $1 million a month. So there is the very high potential that these tools in the first iterations will only be affordable to and available to the deepest pockets, which means that they will be weaponized against everybody else. And we will go through another period where there is this huge aggregation of wealth into the biggest companies in the world, and where once again in our history, big companies use large law firms and big AI to push around small law firms and clients, where justice isn't done based on who has the law on their side or the facts on their side, but who can afford the best tools, who can afford to weaponize AI. This is a hellscape.
Yeah, can we go back to the optimistic
Ed, we're
side?
glad you're here today.
Are we ready for the optimistic take?
So the reason I say this is the difference between the optimistic view and the pessimistic view is us, like us in this room. I don't mean us like a commencement speaker like our generation. I mean like maybe 2,500 people in the world could make the difference, right? It's us. So the optimistic view is that we are able to use AI tools, open models, to collaborate to build better foundational models that don't cost $12 million a year to deploy. That we can build plugins for open or inexpensive tools that do this work to make them every bit as powerful. And in that world, we are able to use AI as a force multiplier for justice, where we're able to have small firms who have the capacity to review documents, the capacity to find novel arguments that big law firms do. It's an equalizer. But what's the difference? I mean, the difference is whether we're able to use AI effectively or not. If we are using AI, as Jack Newton said this morning, to reach into that latent market, to drive down the cost of legal matters for our clients, even if that means lower dollar values per matter, but many more matters, then we really can reach into that latent market. We can create more opportunity for ourselves, but more importantly, do more justice. And in that way, AI can end up leading us into a future where people win or lose cases based on whether the law is on their side. And look, this is just very direct for me. When Phil Rosenthal and I started Fastcase in 1999, this was the problem we faced. People couldn't afford to just get access to the law. They couldn't afford to buy from the incumbents in the market access to find out what the cases and statutes were that would help their clients. And so people would win or lose cases based on who had the more expensive legal research system, who could afford to subscribe outside of their state plan, right? And here we are, 25 years later, facing the exact same question again. Is AI going to be something that is so expensive that it's carved up for everyone who is not in the biggest law firm in the world? Or is it going to be a factor to democratize the law? So this is our mission. I mean, this is explicitly what VLEX and Fastcase are trying to do. We're trying to create tools that will level the playing field and do it in an ethical, safe, and responsible way that everyone can trust. But man, I'm telling you, like, we've got a very small window here. If small law firms and innovative lawyers don't adopt AI tools, I think I'm supposed to say you'll be replaced by people who are using them. That is not my concern. My concern is that we'll be squashed, right? That large law firms will use AI as a lever to disadvantage our clients and use our independence and size against us. And so it is really incumbent on us to learn about AI, to use it, to try the tools, to innovate with the tools, to make sure that they're a force multiplier for justice and not a radical catalyst for inequality.
Fantastic. We get some applause for that. Thank you. All right, I do want to protect just a little bit of time. Did we flip? We did not. There we go. For some questions. So if you are joining us virtually, you can drop your questions into the Q&A part of the interface or into the chat. If you are joining us here physically, throw your hand up. We're going to have a mic runner coming around. All right, we got two hands up way at the front.
We do have a question from the
Oh,
virtual
it's okay.
audience.
For the webcast, you'll need a microphone. We can hear
Yes,
you, but
exactly. We're going to
the
start
home
with a
audience
question.
cannot hear you.
Absolutely. We're going to start with a virtual question.
I'll tell you what, though, while we're waiting, do you want to ask the question and we'll just repeat it?
No, hold on a second.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good. Sorry, do you want to throw to the virtual question?
Is AI unbiased, or if the more it learns about us and our firms through frequent use, will it lean toward our desired outcome?
Ali, you want to take that?
So I was a little garbled. Is AI biased is the question?
Is AI unbiased, I believe is the
Okay,
question.
well, I think it's not that AI is biased, it's that the data that trains the AI could be biased. And so the question, and that's why we talk about being careful about what data you put in or what data you use to train your AI against, and whether or not that will inform whether your output has a bias to it. And unfortunately, the collection of the world's internet has very many biases already in it. And so, part of that, I think, when you talk about implementing AI for companies in the future and things like that, you're going to actually require the assistance of data scientists and people within your organization who have advanced knowledge about the data that your group carries, and they can do things like control for time, for instance, if things were historically more biased and are now less biased. If you control for time and you prioritize data that was generated within the last 5 years or 10 years versus historical data that's 100 years or greater, it'll allow you to also control for certain other biases, whether those are, there's a larger preponderance of male employees historically versus female, et cetera. So yes, AI can be biased, but a lot of it matters what data you put into your system as to what biases you get out of it.
Fantastic. Okay, we've got our mic up here.
So I utilize ChatGPT for marketing, and it's great. It helps out. It makes things a lot easier. And I do see attorneys utilizing it in motion drafting and all that. Where would you keep AI away? In what area of your law firm do you keep AI out?
Ed, do you want to take that?
Yeah, so if I understand your question, where should we not use AI?
Yes.
Yeah, so I would say that the most human parts of our representation we should never do with AI. A lot of times when clients come to us, we imagine they want hours or documents or something else. Even when clients prepare their documents through online form tools, maybe through Clio or Lawyaw, part of what they're looking for is someone to say, it's okay. I've seen worse. Here's what's going to happen next. Your problems you no longer have to face alone. I'm going to face them with you. We should never, ever outsource the most human parts of it to AI. I would say the rule of thumb is if it's a reason that you went to law school, don't trust AI with it.
Oh, I like that.
That's a good one.
Mitch, is there anything that you'd keep
Well,
AI
just a
away?
quick follow-up. I think it's all about relationships and building rapport with clients. And so balance how you're using AI to become more efficient, but contrast that with that personal phone call or that lunch that you have to develop those relationships. I think it comes down to communication. And time allowing, I'll talk a little bit more about how to use AI to communicate better, because I actually feel the future of humanity and the world and our legal profession, subject to the things that Ed said, I think it's nothing but 2 thumbs up. I'm excited about what's going to happen. The reason I say that is, it was $1 million of components that used to go into one of these things, and now they're giving them away if you sign up for a 2-year plan. I think
Which also costs $1 million.
I think the cost of AI is going to come down, and I also feel that communication and relationships are what makes the world a better place. The more people that have access via AI-created videos where you're sharing information with your clients in just a couple of seconds, you can create beautiful videos with a couple of text prompts, or you're communicating your message in 40 different languages with 60 seconds of effort. Okay, check out Spotify, see what YouTube's doing. The more communication and information we have, I think the better we're going to be as a global society, and we are a global society. And so for those reasons, that's why I'm so gung-ho on what we're talking about. It's going to change the world and put us in a much better place down the road. There's going to be some speed bumps. We're going to have some hiccups, but when it's all said and done, other than personal relationships, I can't think of a reason why you wouldn't want to incorporate some level of the type of AI that we're talking about in everything that you're doing. It's that powerful and it's that good.
Amazing. Well, we could absolutely stay here for probably the next 2 days of the conference and continue this conversation, but we are running out of time. So would you please join me in thanking our panel?
Thank you.